In the fall of 2016, Jimmy Donaldson did not seem like a future celebrity multimillionaire. The shy 18-year-old had been posting videos on YouTube for 5 years from his mom's North Carolina house without much traction. His mother urged him to go to college, but he dropped out of East Carolina University after 2 weeks. Instead of going to class, he spent most of his time on campus editing videos in his car. "That's all I ever talked about at school. I thought I was a freak of nature," he told content creators and podcasters Colin and Samir in September. "People would tell me, 'All you do is talk about YouTube videos. You're too obsessed with YouTube. Get a life.'" He has the money now, and is able to bring viewers access to places to see things that they would never get to see. "That's an interesting model, because you're giving video viewers access to something they would never get to see in real life," Fisher says. "Who do you know that gets to stay in $1 million per night hotel?" But Vince Miller, who teaches sociology and cultural studies at the University of Kent in the UK and has written a scholarly paper on Mr. Beast, argues that Donaldson has been innovative in the way he leverages YouTube's revenue-sharing model to support charitable causes. As Miller sees it, Donaldson is asking viewers simply to watch his videos and be entertained, as opposed to donating their time or money. And the more people watch, the more Donaldson earns and can donate to charity. It's quite powerful to tell a 10-year-old kid who has no independent money and limited agency in their life that they can raise money and help people by watching Mr. Beast's videos, he says. Miller says Mr. Beast's formula for viral success has several ingredients: his everyman appeal and enthusiasm, the video's high production values and their elaborate stunts, along with wads of cash tossed around like confetti. But Donaldson's fame comes down to his unique form of philanthropy, Miller says. He convinces viewers that by watching his videos and helping him get more views, they're engaging in a form of ethical consumerism. The fact that he recycles a good portion of the large income he makes from these videos into even larger and more spectacular prizes for subsequent videos is one of the secrets to his success. He often uses income from his previous videos to outdo himself in his next videos, Miller says. In past interviews, Donaldson has said he studied the YouTube recommendation algorithm and other creator stats meticulously to come up with a recipe for making his videos popular. The contest format of many of his videos encourages viewers to watch till the end to see the outcome, Miller adds, which results in higher advertising revenue for both Donaldson and YouTube, making the platform's algorithm more likely to recommend his videos. Last year, Time magazine named him one of the world's 100 most influential people. Even so, Mr. Beast says he still has tremendous passion for what he does. "I'm going on 10 years, and I love it more than anything," he says. "If you took my channel away from me, I don't know what I would do." Any attempt to arrest Vladimir Putin when he visits South Africa would be a declaration of war against Russia, the country's president says. Cyril Ramaphosa made the warning with weeks to go before an international meeting happens in Johannesburg, to which the Russian president is invited. But if Mr. Putin leaves Russian soil, he will be subject to an International Criminal Court (ICC) arrest warrant. South Africa is an ICC signatory and should therefore help in his arrest. yet it has refused to honor that obligation in the past, allowing safe passage in 2015 to Sudan's then-President Omar al-Bashir, who was wanted for war crimes against his own people. Mr. Putin has been invited to South Africa in August, when the country hosts a summit for members of the BRICS countries, an acronym for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. This bloc of fast-growing economies is seen by some as an alternative to the G7 group of advanced economies. South Africa's biggest opposition party, Democratic Alliance, has gone to court to try to force the authorities to carry out an arrest on Mr. Putin should he set foot in the country. Court documents reveal that President Ramaphosa is firmly against any such move, stating that national security is at stake. South Africa has obvious problems with executing a request to arrest and surrender President Putin, he said in an affidavit. Russia has made it clear that arresting its sitting president would be a declaration of war. It would be inconsistent with our constitution to risk engaging in war with Russia. President Ramaphosa added that South Africa is one of several African nations holding talks with Russia and Ukraine with a view of ending the war altogether, and that attempting to arrest Mr. Putin would be counterproductive. Last month saw a peace mission to the European nations, where African presidents hoped they could bring Ukraine and Russia to the table together but ultimately failed. Much has been made of African nations' reluctance to back UN General Assembly resolutions condemning Russia's war in Ukraine. Correspondents say the reasons range depending on the nation, be it South Africa's anti-apartheid ties to the Soviet Union, or Mali's present-day reliance on Russian Wagner mercenaries to fight jihadists. Russian missile attacks on Ukraine's Black Sea coast have destroyed 60,000 tons of grain and damaged storage infrastructure, officials say. A considerable amount of export infrastructure was out of operation. Russia has pulled out of a deal guaranteeing safe passage for exports across the Black Sea. Later on Wednesday, Russia's President Putin accused the West of using the grain deal as political blackmail. He added he would consider rejoining the international agreement, in place since last summer, only if all principles under which Russia agreed to participate in the deal are fully taken into account and fulfilled. His comments came shortly after Russia's defense ministry declared that from midnight on Wednesday night, 2100 hours Greenwich Mean Time, any ships heading to Ukrainian ports would be viewed as potential carriers of military cargo and party to the conflict. Some northwestern and southeastern areas of the Black Sea would be temporarily dangerous for shipping, it added. Russia began targeting Ukraine's ports in the early hours of Tuesday within hours of its withdrawal from the grain deal. More strikes followed overnight into Wednesday, targeting grain terminals and port infrastructure in Odessa and further down the Black Sea coast in Chornomorsk, two of the three ports that were included in the export deal. At least 12 civilians, including a 9-year-old boy, were wounded during the attacks, which also caused damage to blocks of flats, military officials said. Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky said each missile strike was a blow not just to Ukraine, but to everyone in the world striving for a normal and safe life. France and Germany also condemned the attack. That by covering Odessa with a hail of bombs, Russian President Vladimir Putin was robbing the world of any hope of Ukrainian grain and hitting the world's poorest. The Infrastructure Ministry published a series of photos showing damage to silos and other grain facilities. Officials said there had been damage to wharves and reservoirs, but it was international and Ukrainian traders that had suffered the most. Russian war commentators said the damage proved that Kiev was unable to shoot down the majority of Russian missiles and drones. Russia had called its initial attack on Odessa a mass revenge strike for an attack on the Russian-built bridge over the Kerch Strait linking occupied Crimea to Russia. New York City plans to distribute flyers at the southern border warning migrants there is no guarantee they will receive help if they come there. Mayor Eric Adams announced the plan on Wednesday, arguing the city could not handle any more migrants as it has taken in 90,000 since April last year. "We have no more room, it was at capacity," said the leader of America's biggest city. A copy of the flyer tells migrants, "Please consider another city as you make your decision about where to settle in the U.S." It warns, in English and in Spanish, that the cost of food, transportation, and other necessities in New York are expensive and says the city cannot guarantee housing and other social services for new arrivals. As a part of the plan, Mr. Adams, a Democrat, also announced that single adult migrants will only be able to stay in the city's shelters for 60 days and will need to reapply for a space after that. Mr. Adams told a news conference the city would try to help migrants find housing with relatives and friends. A record 105,800 people are living in New York's shelters at the moment, including over 54,000 asylum seekers. The mayor blamed the federal and state government for not providing enough aid for the city to offer housing and other social services for new arrivals. "We cannot continue to absorb tens of thousands of newcomers on our own without the help of the state and federal government." Critics of Mr. Adams' new plan argue it violates the city's right to shelter rules, which guarantee temporary housing for those in need. Mr. Adams has attempted to weaken those rules amid the influx of migrants. In a statement on Twitter, the American Civil Liberties Union of New York called the mayor's new plan cruel and unlawful. "It flies in the face of New Yorkers' values of compassion and care," the organization said. The Republican-led states transporting migrants by bus to Democratic-run jurisdictions have focused on self-proclaimed sanctuary cities that limit their cooperation with federal immigration authorities. They have also said the measure is designed to increase pressure on President Joe Biden, a Democrat, to do more to reduce the number of migrants crossing the southern U.S. border. German officials have called off their search for a suspected lioness after finding no evidence of a big cat on the loose in Berlin's suburbs. Police were searching for more than a day after being notified about a wild animal by members of the public, but found no trace. After speaking to experts, they now believe the creature was a wild boar. No paw prints or DNA material, such as animal waste, was found in areas where the animal was spotted. The frantic search was triggered by a short grainy video shot by a member of the public in the early hours of Thursday. It appeared to show a wild animal, possibly a lion, roaming in a wooded area in the town of Clonmacnoise. As the search unfolded, 2 police officers said they saw a big cat about 20 meters (65 feet) away on the same day. But at a press conference on Friday, Clonmacnoise Mayor Michael Grubert said that everything indicates it is not a lioness. He held up photographs which he said proved that the animal from the video did not have the long, curving neck characteristic of lions. And what looked in the video like a long tail with a bob, the mayor said, could in fact have been a shadow cast by vegetation. Meanwhile, Clonmacnoise town spokeswoman Martina Bellac said 2 experts, including one from South Africa, had been called in to analyze the footage. Both came to the conclusion there was no way it was a lion, she said. At one stage earlier on Friday, as many as 120 police officers and wildlife experts were involved in the search. Drones, helicopters and heat-seeking cameras were also used before the search was called off. That was after around a dozen possible sightings of the animal were reported to police overnight, including in the wealthy Zehlendorf area, which is within Berlin's city borders. Officers were not amused when young people started playing loud roaring lion sounds on a speaker near to the area where the search was going on. That helps neither the local community nor the police in their search for the animal, police spokeswoman Kirsten Schroeder told RBB. Residents had been told to stay inside, to keep their pets with them and to avoid forest areas. Experts also issued advice on how to deal with the wild animal if someone came upon it, such as standing still and avoiding eye contact.